Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was fascinated by the numbers that you presented in terms of the percentages of in rural areas, in the areas that your members cover. And looking at the two co-ops that cover my district, I'm sort of shocked to see that 85% of the residents in one area, in Cherryland Electric Cooperative's area, use natural gas, propane, or wood to heat, and over 90% in the area covered by Great Lakes Energy use those three fuel sources, and actually electricity accounts for less than 6% of the heating in those two areas. We've spent a lot of time, and we should spend a lot of time. I understand that 90% of Michigan residents get their heat from electricity, but obviously that's truer in some parts of the...
I would say 90% get their heat from natural gas statewide.
Okay.
Now, electricity in Michigan is not a primary heating source across all utility sectors, but it's even less of an issue for the electric co-ops.
Okay, and in rural areas.
Correct.
And I guess as we're trying to keep people from losing their heat, perhaps we should be looking beyond simply electric providers. And I guess I just want to ask you openly, what measures would you recommend to protect residents in rural areas, those residents who do not get their heat from electric providers, from losing their heat?
Yeah, you raise a good point. I'll give you an example of an issue that we've come across with propane, for one thing. Propane dealers will not provide a partial fill on a customer's tank. So if a customer has a tank that's a 500-gallon tank and it's run empty, the propane dealers typically will require a full fill of that tank. So that customer will need to be able to pay upwards of $1,000 at one time to fill that tank. The customer might have a few $100s available to put 100 gallons of propane in the tank to get them another couple of weeks. But none of the propane dealers, the private propane dealers in our service areas, will do partial fills. I think that's an issue that quite frankly needs to be looked at. We do have a few co-ops in the state that provide propane service, but they provide it on a metered basis where they'll fill the tank and the customer only pays for the propane that goes through the meter. So it doesn't matter if the customer doesn't have any money to fill the tank, they only pay each month when they get a bill, just like they do for their electric service. So I think one of the issues, for especially in the winter, is looking at how private companies fill those propane tanks, and perhaps there should be some options for customers. Short of that, I haven't given it a lot of thought beyond that one issue, because we have run across that recently. The MPSC rules that apply to the regulated electric, the co-ops, and to the natural gas companies seem to work very well for the wintertime. But it is those customers that don't use a regulated fuel that there are some difficulty. Obviously, if it's wood, they have a source for wood. Typically, that's going to be the back 40 or somebody, neighbor or something like that. So wood doesn't seem to be the issue. The real issue seems to be the propane.
Thank you. One last question. You pointed out something. Your members have the ability to go out and self-regulate, and you spoke to what you perceive are merits to the state's the Public Service Commission rules on shutoff. What do you think some of the benefits are to that? I mean, does it provide some protections for your interest, or?
Well, uniformity is one thing. So we know that across the board, that all of the co-ops, that is the minimum. They're all following that minimal level of customer protection. So we can do common information pieces to our membership. I handed out a copy of the magazine that has the Be Winter Wise information that we publish every year in November. So that is a consistent message to all of our customers that here are the rules with respect to the winter protection. And it's uniform across all the co-ops and the regulated utilities. So that's a benefit. It also is a benefit from the standpoint of our cooperative boards of directors, because quite frankly, our boards of directors, they are private citizens sitting on that board. It's comforting for them to know that there's the state agency that has set a minimum standard for security deposits in the winter and payment plan rules in the winter, so that they don't have to try to come up with something. Mick was 100% correct when he made the comment, this is as much an art as it is a science. And it is very difficult to balance the interests of that individual customer and against the utility and the other customers wanting that customer to pay their bill. In a perfect world, everybody would just simply pay all their bill every month and it wouldn't be a problem. But that's not what we have. So by having those minimum standards, our boards of directors, none of our co-ops have ever pushed very hard against the winter protection rules. So we believe that that minimum standard has worked well. That uniform message that we can develop in the magazine helps us on a communications point, and it also alleviates us having to come up with a policy on our own.
Thank you very much for that answer. Any other questions? Again, thank you very much. Appreciate your leadership. So, thank you. You said you didn't have any written comments, correct?
I do not have written comments.
Well, we have it all in our heads, so that's perfect. No, that's okay. Thank you. We've been taking notes too.